Look on the other side. Y'all see what this say? Y'all know them Air Force Ones
I didn't know
right there.
I couldn't tell what brand that was.
Hey, Charles, he should have signed with Adidas. Why he didn't sign with Adidas?
He want to be famous, baby. Only Nike can make you famous.
These his first shoes? I like them AE1s better than these, nephew.
These the ones, Jack.
Oh yeah, these the ones. The color, the feel, the look. These the ones for sure. You know how I know?
How?
Cause they mind crazy, man. Believe that.
At one point in time, Michael Jordan preferred Adidas over Nike. The only issue was Adidas didn't share that same interest. Nike was willing to offer him a never-before-seen contract with the most amount of money per year and royalties. They had Jordan's family on board. The only issue was they didn't have the man himself on board. So Jordan, being so in love with Adidas, went back to them in hopes of them matching Nike's offer, and they didn't.
Then I was very loyal. I went back to Adidas, the Adidas contract that I had, and said, look, this is the Nike contract. If you come in and wear clothes, I signed with you guys, and they didn't feel like it was worth it.
So it almost felt like Jordan was forced into taking the deal with Nike. And as we all know now, that would go down as the biggest fumble in the history of basketball shoe endorsements. And you could make the argument that it's the biggest fumble in the entire history of Adidas. And that's not just because Jordan would go on to become the most influential figure of the sport, but because his shoes felt synonymous with his play style. To own a pair of Jordans was almost like a gateway to his superpowers. And obviously that's all thanks to Nike's A+ marketing.
The shoe! The shoe! The shoe! The shoe!
And on top of that, it felt like owning a pair of Jordans was like a status symbol thing. I mean, even to this day, if you see somebody across the street wearing a very specific pair of Jordans, you stop and stare. You definitely look at them a little bit differently. And I think that both of those things combined have set Adidas back at least 40 years. But still, 15 years after completely missing out on Jordan, Adidas had their second chance at relevancy and revival with the signing of a young guard from Lower Merion High School by the name of Kobe Bryant. Now, I'm not going to lie, the design started out decently, but after like a year or two, they completely, and I mean completely, fell off a cliff. And on top of that, I felt like the marketing for Kobe was only okay. They were trying to turn him into something he's not, as opposed to just amplifying who he already is. All of these things combined led to Kobe feeling so unhappy with the direction of his brand that he reportedly paid $8 million to get out of his last year of his contract with Adidas. And we all know who he signed with next.
I think he threw my shoes in the trash. He told me to go get some Nikes. He's not signing no Adidas.
Then you fast forward to 2010, 2011, and it feels like Adidas' third chance at that jackpot type of athlete. Young guard from Chicago, playing for the Bulls, youngest MVP ever. Obviously, I'm talking about Derrick Rose, but as we all know now, injuries not only derailed his career on the court, but his brand off of it as well. But then a few years later, they have James Harden, one of the best scorers of all time, has won an MVP, feels like one of the most universally recognized athletes in the league because obviously he's got the beard, he's got a lot of brand deals, like I said, he's well known, and he has a diehard fan base. So it feels like, again, this is another type of athlete that can help in the evolution of your brand, can really help you take that next step, and it felt like their marketing and their design was only okay. I mean, if I asked you to think back to a James Harden Adidas commercial, could you think of one? Because to me, I watched all of them in the research to this, and I only vaguely remember one. And that's no disrespect to James or Adidas, but at the same time, it just felt like you have a really transcendent type of guy with a diehard fan base, like I said, and you don't capitalize enough on that market. So obviously, you're not going to be able to really push forward and push innovation. Now, I'm not saying that they should do too much like they did with Kobe Bryant, but at the same time, like if you took the Adidas logo off this, if you never knew it belonged to James Harden, you would think that it's probably a running shoe, correct? And I feel like that is a representative of what their brand kind of was for a very, very long time. Simultaneously, Nike is pitching a masterclass in how to market athletes. From Penny Hardaway with the low pennies, to Scottie Pippen, to Kobe Bryant turning him into the Black Mamba, LeBron James with the funny commercials, then Kobe Bryant and LeBron James with the iconic Puppet series. It felt like on and on and on, every athlete they got, it was just A+ after A+ after A+. Their biggest blemish is missing out on Steph Curry, and you can thank Nico Harrison for that. And it just seemed like this is what Adidas was as a basketball brand at the time. They would never be able to get out of Nike's shadow, and there was no end in sight. However, that all changed when a 6'4" guard from Atlanta, Georgia entered the league. Adidas basketball has never, and I mean ever, invested in an athlete the way that they've invested in Ant. They are essentially banking on the identity of Adidas basketball being Anthony Edwards. And I feel like that makes perfect sense to me because it is super, super rare to have an athlete this young and this ready to be marketed at the highest level. During my entire research process, I came up with about 5 pillars that I feel are super necessary and super important if you want to successfully market a player in today's game. The 5 are success on the court, authenticity, personality, followed by innovation and execution on the actual marketing and design side of things if you want to really successfully integrate your brand into the culture of American society. And I feel like Adidas has all 5, no question. If we look at success on the court, yes, I'm fully aware Ant doesn't have an MVP or a championship yet, but I feel like beating guys like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Nikola Jokic, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, leading a franchise to their first Western Conference Finals in like 20 years, qualifies as enough success for a 23-year-old. I feel like he's doing a really good job of making a name for himself and really writing those early chapters that we're used to seeing from those legendary, generation-defining type of athletes. And then there's the personality. He talks a lot of shit. He's very confident in himself. He's a funny dude. But on top of that, he was in a movie after like his rookie year. He's one of those guys that's really built for the bright lights. And I think when you combine that with authenticity, it's like the perfect mix. There's a lot of guys that try and get on social media, really make themselves seen, but it feels like they're trying too hard and it feels kind of inauthentic. It feels like they're doing it for clicks, and that's kind of the day and age we're in right now. But when you're able to do that and make it feel authentic, which it really does feel authentic, you get the perfect blend. But none of this would matter if there was no innovation or execution on the actual marketing and design side of things. And that's where I want to give Adidas a ton of credit. It's clear they've learned from their past mistakes, and it feels like everything's led to this moment with this athlete to allow them to finally break through as a basketball brand in today's society. All right, let's actually look at it from a design perspective first, and that's only because it doesn't matter how many cool commercials you have. Trust me, they have plenty of great commercials. I can't wait to break them down, talk about them. It doesn't matter how great you package your content. Again, they've done a great job of that as well. Can't wait to talk about it in a second. But it doesn't matter how great you do those things if your product is trash. If your product is unappealing to the eyes, it does not matter what you do around it. The product will always be trash. Maybe the diehard fans will buy it, but all the casuals will have no interest in it. Because in the past, it honestly felt like they were doing too much when it came time to take that next step in the design process as a brand. Now I feel like they're doing a really good job of embodying who the player really is, keeping it simple but at the same time innovative, definitely pushing boundaries but not doing too much. And like I said, I really love how they are embodying the players' personalities more in the shoe. I definitely feel it when I see Ant, when I see the new Damian Lillards, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, on and on and on. I just think they do a really good job now. Everything's kind of changed, and I think internally they would tell you the same thing. I was reading something that said, internally Adidas basketball has taken to calling the look that defines the new direction of its basketball line, quote unquote, radical simplicity. The aesthetic can essentially be distilled to a rule of 2. 2 colors form the backbone of nearly every colorway, and if there's a third, it's used quite sparingly. The simplicity of this arrangement then makes it easy to highlight the 2 distinct elements of a given shoe. In 2023, this idea of quote-unquote radical simplicity was first tested on the market for the Harden Volume 7, but where it's really taken off has been on the AE1 and the Harden Volume 8. So when you look at it, they made a conscious decision to really step out of their comfort zone and try something new. And at the same time, just not doing too much. I maybe keep saying that. I apologize if I do, but I feel like that's so important. They were known for doing too much in the past. And now that they've really mastered this, hopefully mastered this idea of just keeping it cool, keeping it simple, they now understand that you don't have to do all that to make a successful product, right? But at the same time, although the AE1 is simple, I love that it's also loud in its own way. I love that you can't see the Adidas logo plastered anywhere. I know it's on the back heel tab of the shoe, but you're so used to Adidas shoes having the 3 stripes across the center of the shoe, so it really makes it stand out a little bit more. Like anytime you see it on the street or on a basketball court, you go like, is that really an Adidas basketball shoe? Like I said, it makes it stand out in its own way. And then on top of that, I love the use of the TPU material as opposed to like the mesh that most shoes have, because the TPU material allows you to get away with more vibrant colorways. And when you're dealing with a guy like Ant, you're going to need those vibrant colorways to really represent who he is. Like if you look at his All-Star edition of his shoes, You only get that because of the use of that TPU. And it also seems like Ant was very involved in the design process of the shoe, because the lead designer of the AE1, Patrick Zampalik, said, and I quote, "He pushed us to make something that didn't look like anything on the market. We wanted to create a confident shoe, something that could boost a kid's confidence." And Ant followed that up by saying, "I want them to feel like they can play like me and be like me." And whether you believe it or not, that actually works, because I've gone to a few AAU games for a family friend recently, and those are the shoes that are definitely worn the most. And to be honest, they're not the mid-top, they're all the lows. All the kids seem to love the lows. Even my family friend says, "Hey, I want a pair of the lows next. I've seen everybody wearing those. That's the shoe I want." It's actually crazy that I was doing the research for this and then he brought it up. So it's definitely a shoe that stands out the most and a shoe that the kids love the most. And global GM of Adidas basketball, Eric Wise, would tell you that this is all by design. And I quote, "He is definitely positioned for the younger consumer, noting how Edwards' shoe is being introduced at a skills camp for kids. I think it's something that we have to do with our category, is get younger. We all know that when the youth loves a product, it's the equivalent to hitting the jackpot. Not just because they buy the most shoes. I mean, yes, because they buy the most shoes, but more so because if Adidas plays their cards right for the next 10 to 20 to 30 years, these kids are going to grow up still wanting these pairs of shoes, and not only are they going to get it for themselves, but for their kids as well. I mean, my dad loved Jordans. My first pair of shoes was a pair of Jordans. My kids will probably have Jordans, and as crazy as it sounds, if you play your cards right as a brand, this is kind of how you make yourself a staple in American society. And in order to do that, in order to go from a $100 million product to a $1 billion brand, you must master the marketing of it all. And to me, this is where Adidas has absolutely aced it. It's something that, in my opinion, will be taught in marketing classes in the near future. People might think I'm taking it too far, I'm glazing, whatever. It's something I'm very passionate about, and I personally feel like I haven't seen a brand do it like this in a very long time, especially in the basketball space. Adidas knew they potentially had a guy that could transcend the game, had a big personality, was honestly perfect for the moment, perfect to allow that brand to take that next step, especially in the basketball space where they've been under Nike's thumb forever, for years, like I said, for 40 years. And they knew they had a guy that could potentially take them out of that could really help them elevate and take them to the next level. And I felt like they didn't play around. I mean, when I read their initial meeting and how they pitched him, it felt like from the very jump, they were like, "Look, we want you to be the guy." Like I said at the beginning of the video, the identity of Adidas basketball is Anthony Edwards, and this is all by design. And I quote, "Adidas basketball has major plans for the heralded 22-23 All-Star, dating back to an initial mock-up meeting where the brand pitched Anthony Edwards as a timeless three stripes icon. Muhammad Ali, David Beckham, Anthony Edwards. We kind of pitched that to him being like, this is your moment. If you feel like you have a guy that can really take you out of that shadow that you've been stuck under for 40 years, you gotta go for it." And I felt like they really went for it, and that's super important because it set the tone early in their partnership. They were initially just kind of pitching him a vibe, an essence of the brand, like a spirit of the brand. And as much as you might think you know a guy like Ant, it's important to kind of let him pick. I think you got to let your talent pick, because they will tell you what they resonate with the most. Like, for example, they were showing him pictures more of like apex predators, lions, tidal waves, and that's what he picked. That's the bucket he picked, that more futuristic apex predator type of vibe. And I think they pitch him in that way because they want to know what kind of story to tell around Ant, and they want to know what kind of spirit he wants to embody going forward. And it's way better than showing him a colorway or a design, because honestly that's useless. It's more important to get this down, because that will set the tone for the next 10 to 15 to 20 years of the partnership. And I feel like if you get that down and you get the essence of the brand down, then you're allowed to kind of see what the evolution of the brand would look like. They're finally not just selling a shoe, they're selling a sense of community. They're telling a story, and they want you to be a part of it. Now we can finally break down the story that Adidas is trying to tell around Ant. Now listen, I wish we could have talked about this from the very first second of the video, because it's by far my favorite aspect of it all, but I feel like it's important to understand where the brand was, the essence of where the brand is, and more importantly, where it's headed going forward. Because I personally feel like this is the beginning of a very long and successful brand that could really withstand the test of time and potentially really shift the scales and kind of the way we view Adidas basketball. It all started on Twitter when Adidas featured a video series covering everything from an introduction to Anthony Edwards, the benefits of the AE1s, how customers will play in them, and obviously the motivational messages from Edwards himself. But this was just the beginning. I mean, I love so many details about everything they did, and as he got bigger, so did the marketing campaign campaign as well. So I love how they just continue to grow with him. I mean, the very first thing to take away is obviously the peach background in every commercial. That's because obviously he's from Atlanta, Georgia, the peach state. So they're kind of constantly paying homage to his home state. And I love that. It just makes it more personal, and it definitely makes it unique. He definitely stands out as well because they never leave that background. I love the commercial where they're going at everybody else's signature shoe. This was the first one that really made waves on social media, I felt like, and it definitely plays into who he is as a person. He's loud, he's confident, but at the same time, I love who they chose to go after. They went after LaMelo, Ja, and Luka. Obviously, also they went after Bron, but Bron's going to get the most views, so I get why they did that. But with LaMelo, Ja, and Luka, that's 3 guys under 3 different brands that are definitely selling, heavy within the youth. A lot of kids love their shoes. Definitely Adidas trying to send a message saying like, hey, we're here now and we're better than you. And it makes it competitive. It makes it more entertaining. And I definitely like it. You have the right athlete to make a commercial like that, and they went for it. I love this commercial as well. It's for the release of the AE1 low. You got the convertible with the top coming off. Get it? Because we're wearing low tops now. Then you got the Larry O'Brien trophy on the keychain. I don't know. I just like the details. I just like the Easter eggs. I feel like we don't really get that with athletes anymore, so it's just cool to see. And then obviously this set of commercials went a lot more viral, but I love the use of Ice-T, who's obviously known for his legendary role on Law & Order SVU. But if you pay close attention to the numbers here, 20 is for John Collins for this dunk, 2 Gabe Vincent for this one, 23 Robert Covington, 18 Yuta Watanabe, 7 Chet Holmgren, and 13 Jaren Jackson. So they're really painting him as like a serial posterizer. I think it's really cool, and like I said, I love all the little details. It makes you really pay attention a little bit extra every time you watch a commercial, and it's just cool. I like it. And then the quote-unquote evidence being the shoe, which is obviously a nice little touch. And then you got the sound at the very end of the commercial that's very similar to the Law & Order SVU sound. I thought that was another cool little, nugget and Easter egg, whatever you want to call it. But this commercial is by far my favorite of them all. I'm not sure if I can play it because of copyright, but if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. I love every little detail. I love the book of the wolf with the basketball on it. I don't know. I just think it's a nice little touch, and like I said, unique. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's unlike anything we've seen in a while, honestly. Then you have the Can't into Ant, and obviously this kind of low-hanging fruit. It's very simple, but it all plays into that theme of him being very confident, which I love. I think it's a cool touch. Now, the thing that Adidas has absolutely mastered throughout this process is the timing of these ads. As soon as Ant gets a dunk, Adidas drops something like this. And if you pay close attention, they have the little number with the number of the player that Ant dunked on. Or they drop the commercial right after the dunk. They're almost waiting for Ant to make a moment, and then they capitalize on that moment. And I think that is marketing 101, but you don't see brands do that nowadays, especially in the athlete world. I think in total, I really just love the vibe of every story they tell. I mean, every character feels in character, as weird as that sounds, kind of 90s based, and it's just fun. How many times have you seen the Jalen Green Wingstop commercial, or like just a bunch of random ass commercials that you're just used to, like Liberty Mutual? How many times do you see that on TV when you're watching the NBA? It is exhausting. So when you see ads with an athlete that is on the come up and it kind of feels fun and fresh, it's something that really catches your eye. And I want to give a quick little shout out to the team in charge of all of these commercials, because honestly, it's been cool, and I feel like people who are doing cool things deserve credit. So the Prodco team is the team in charge of all of these commercials, seemingly. Onda, he's a legendary director. He's the director of all of these commercials. You got the director of storytelling at Adidas Basketball, Paul Weber. Creative direction, Miles Jackson Cartwright. Director of global brand marketing, Brandon Carr. So shout out to those dudes. They are killing it. I cannot wait to see what they come up with next. And honestly, I cannot wait to see the evolution of this entire brand. The commercials is nowhere near the only thing that Adidas is mastering throughout this entire process, so I definitely want to give them a little shout out for a few more things. For example, the logo. I know it's nothing too crazy, but I like, obviously they got the peach background, you got the letter E embedded in there, the 5 ridges for the jersey number, you got the A for Ant, and then you got the ant hill for obviously Ant. And then when the Adidas team was asked about it, they said we wanted to approach it a little bit differently, where it's a little bit more of a rhythmic design. It's less of a monogram, and if you don't know what a monogram is, it's like where people do like the 2 letters and the number somehow mixed in there. They were trying to make like more of like an emblem, and I thought that was pretty cool. They said it's more about an expression of his energy and his playing style. I think Adidas deserves a lot of credit for just kind of letting Ant be Ant. I feel like too often we see brands get guys and try and change them, maybe because they're not family friendly, maybe because they cuss too much, or whatever the case may be. Adidas is the opposite. Back to what I was saying about the 5 pillars, authenticity is one of them. And it's not just from the athlete's perspective, it's also from the brand's perspective as well. Allowing your athlete to be who he naturally is only makes us like the brand even more. And I really love the constant homages to Ant's roots. I mean, many of his shoe colorways have very special meanings to him, and then they use his best friend in almost all the commercials. His name's Nick Maddox. He got his own shoe colorway as well. I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, they use him in every commercial. It's way better than using an actor who is Ant's best friend as opposed to just using Ant's best friend. So I thought, like I said, everything's authentic, and that makes us want and respect the brand even more. Even the way they initially unveiled the shoe in his hometown in Atlanta, they did an entire event. They got the community involved, which obviously I loved. You could have easily done it in a different, more flashy way, but it ended up being done in a way that cultivates or maybe immerses the community, which obviously I think is very special. And at the event, they also unveiled a mural with his mother and his grandmother who passed away. I think I saw a video of him say that that was like the highlight of his summer.
The highlight of my off season, the mural. Yeah, I think that was more important than everything, for sure.
I think it's just really beautiful to see that like a brand actually really cares about their athlete. Maybe it doesn't make them extra sales, but it further, deepens the bond between brand and athlete, and it just ensures further loyalty from both sides. And that's special, and it's something that maybe people take for granted nowadays because it's all money based, but you want to build real relationships with them, and you want to set a standard going forward for any athlete that comes behind them. They may have unveiled the shoe prior to the season, but Adidas still did a celebration of the launch in the Timberwolves arena for the first game of the season. They gave the ball boys and ball girls all a pair of shoes. Everybody in the arena got a t-shirt, just more things to further, deepen that die-hard fan base. When you're building an athlete, it is super important to build the diehards first, I feel like, and then the casuals will come. But the diehards buy no matter what. So to attack, Minnesota and Atlanta, where he's from and where he's playing, I think it was very, very smart of them. And then for game 3 against the Lakers, they did a full peach-colored crime scene investigation zone with evidence. They had a LeBron jersey laid out. They had clues. Ice-T was there. Veda Howard was there. They had merch for fans. And, it was just like I said, an immersive experience. I think that that's just cool. Everything I'm kind of saying, I'm realizing as I'm saying it out loud, it's just, I like that Adidas cares. I like that Adidas tries. I feel like we don't see that much anymore, and they try more than anyone that I currently see. And I think that stands out to me, and it should stand out to everybody else as well, because nowadays everyone's just trying to make the quickest penny as fast as they can. Like I said, they will shortcut whatever they have to in order to get that. And it feels like Adidas isn't really trying to do that. They're trying to build a brand that lasts a long time, like I said earlier, that withstands the test of time. And that's something that you have to admire. I feel like effort is cool. And not only is the effort cool, but just that combined with the storytelling makes it feel a lot more special to me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm being dramatic. You guys can tell me in the comments, but I just feel like it's cool. I like it. You could have a great athlete, great storytelling, great on-court success, authenticity. You could have 4 of the 5 necessary things, but if the product isn't great, no one's going to buy it. And ultimately, I don't think that many people are going to care. I think that's why you'll see a lot of guys that have decent sales, but they won't have the cultural impact of a Jordan or Nike in their prime. Hence why you don't really see anyone out on the street or really on the basketball court wearing Tatum's or Curry's. I'm not hating on them at all. I actually think they fit every bill. I think that their marketing teams and their design teams are the ones letting them down. And I'm glad that that's not happening with Ant, because it really feels like a wasted opportunity when we see guys succeeding at the highest level and their marketing teams just aren't matching up, or their design teams just aren't matching up. It feels like they aren't ready for the moment along with the athlete. So it's cool to see Adidas actually ready for that moment along with their big-time athlete. So often we hear about how global basketball has become, and how after LeBron, Steph, and KD retire, there's no one really there to take the torch from them. But in my opinion, there's not only an opportunity to take the torch from them, there's a need to take the torch from them. Ant's kind of the guy. I mean, he's kind of beating every single legend on the way there, so he's kind of taking it in blood almost, and I mean, you got to respect it. And on top of that, Nike has fallen off a bit. Their designs haven't been as great for some years, their stock has taken a hit, and most importantly, the guys that they've given signature shoes to, like Giannis, Ja, and Book, haven't done anything of substance in the playoffs in a while. So not only is there opportunity in the American market for an American player, but there's also opportunity in the basketball shoe space in general. And with opportunity, there's always competition. So I expect SGA, Ant, Luka, Tatum to compete heavily over the next few years. They're 3 different brands, 3 different types of young stars, 3 different personalities and styles, but it's fun, you know, it makes it all entertaining and competitive. So what's next in the marketing of Anthony Edwards? In my personal opinion, from a product perspective, I would like to see them add something like sweatsuits, maybe an action figure. Maybe that's just because I'm thinking about Lil Penny, but I definitely think a lot of kids would like an Anthony Edwards action figure. I'm not sure if there's like a licensing issue there, but I feel like if Adidas can make that happen, that would definitely be cool, and I think it would sell out. Oh yeah, another thing would be the armband and the leg band that he wears. I feel like if you sold those as a set, the arm and the leg band as a set, the kids would love that. Like, they would definitely wear that. You would see so many kids at AAU tournaments wearing that, and I think it'd be cool as well. That's something that I feel like is right up their alley. I'm really surprised that they haven't done it, but that would be cool as well. Obviously, there's the release of the AE2 looming large, and it seems like initial reactions for him weren't great. For me, after I saw him in a different colorway, I actually really liked them, but this colorway I do not like. The all-white colorway, they're okay, and this colorway is probably my favorite. So I don't know. I mean, I'll definitely give them a look, but they didn't pop out at the eye the way that the AE1s did. So there's a lot of pressure now. That's the big thing, is this is what's next. From Adidas's perspective, is don't fuck this up. Don't try and do too much like you've done in the past. You guys said you're going to keep it simple now. Keep it going that way. I feel like there's no need to kind of do anything crazy, do anything out of the ordinary. Just continue with the natural evolution of this brand. And I feel like slowly but surely you will build and integrate yourself into like American culture. I definitely think it's possible. But if you get lazier with the designs, the people won't just buy it because you've marketed him well. The actual product is so important. And if the product isn't up to par, isn't matching everything else, people are going to be kind of turned off. So there's definitely a lot of pressure not to fuck this up. And for some reason, I really believe in Adidas now. I think they're going to do it, but you know, they're kind of historically known for messing these things up. So let's hope that that doesn't happen, because we saw it happen with Kobe early in their relationship in 2001, 2002. So I'm really hoping that we don't get a repeat of that, and that, this is the guy that really helps you, bring legitimacy to Adidas basketball.